You are now watching the Amazing Mets pregame show with your hosts, Rob and CP.
Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on both of our channels and on X. Mets fans, we got a very, very lucky victory yesterday, but we will take it with just 18 games to go. It was a very interesting win yesterday. I didn't know how to feel about it, except I was like, oh, we got the win. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Honestly, it's a great day to be a Mets fan. It's a great week to be a Mets fan. It's a great season to be a Mets fan here because they're playing competitive baseball. This has been a roller coaster of a season. We say it every single time. Yesterday was a nice victory. We were live on the post game yesterday, John and myself, talking about that victory, kind of holding our breath a little bit at that final ball that was hit to right field, which would have been a walk-off home run should it have left the yard. But yeah, a little bit of a sweaty win, a little bit of an ugly win, but we take ugly wins at this point of the season. Want to see a little bit more of a sound win. I want to see the offense wake up. Obviously, we'll talk about this lineup here as well. It's a very unique lineup. I will say that's the word that I'll use. It's a unique lineup. And we got plenty of topics for you all. Yeah, it's a great day to be a Mets fan. And post game again going down on the channel tonight. A little bit of a different layout. I spent today making a different layout for you all, maybe a little bit more visually appealing. So I can't wait for that. And I know you're live during the game today too on your channel, right?
Yep, I got bombarded with a lot of fan quote unquote mail emails. Why haven't I done in-game lives and all that other stuff? So, and I got about like 70 something messages about it. So I'm like, you know what, let me just start doing it and make people happy because everybody seems to like it, and my channel was basically grown because of that. So I'm going to start doing it again just for the people. So yeah, I mean, post game show with you and John, and then me with the in game. So you're gonna get a lot of our faces over the next 3 to 4.5 hours of Mets baseball along with us. So listen, it was a victory that we needed, right? The bounce back is always important after a loss, and they bounced back, right? The Blue Jays basically gave us this game, right? Tyler McGill came out of nowhere with a performance that he came up with yesterday, and good for him, right? Maybe we should just tell him he's not pitching, and then last minute tell him he's pitching, and maybe he won't think so much. But listen, that was an outstanding performance by Tyler McGill, and listen, that was exactly what we needed. I always say this, that there's always a part of the team that carries this team or steps up. The starting pitching has stepped up, especially when the offense has been struggling a little bit. I mean, they haven't been scoring a lot of runs for the most part, and the pitching's been holding it down. And you know what? Great. As long as we keep winning, and regardless of how we win, because it was some bad baseball yesterday. The Mets played for the most part pretty well, besides offensively. But I mean, the Blue Jays basically gave that win on a silver platter, and we'll take it every single time because you know what? We've been in that boat too many times as Met fans, especially in May when the Mets couldn't catch a ball and just be giving up runs at will. And the Blue Jays did that yesterday. And listen, this is why the Blue Jays are an underperforming team, and expectations were always high, but they're not a very well-rounded team. They don't do the basics very well, and we've seen that yesterday. And they've done that all season, even for the last couple of years. And the Mets took full advantage of it. And you know what? Good teams take advantage of bad mistakes, and the Mets did that yesterday. So I'm good. I'm happy, right? The Braves lost yesterday, so that even made me feel better. And we also, I think San Diego and Arizona was off yesterday, so we
They're
gained
off
a half
day.
game on,
They're
yeah,
off day.
half a game on both of them. So we gained on all three teams we were chasing. And or not technically we weren't chasing the Braves, but we gained the game ahead of them, and keep it up. Keep that third spot. That's the way we got to be, and work our way up. That's what we got to do, Chris.
Yeah, I absolutely love the performance from Tyler McGill. I think that Carlos Mendoza today said something to the effect of, or some reporter asked Carlos Mendoza if they expect or if he expects Paul Blackburn to make a start in the Philly series if this is just a minor setback. And Carlos Mendoza said no, don't expect him to see him in the Philly series. So again, like you said, operate under the assumption possibly that he's done for the rest of the season, and we're just gonna have to see Tyler McGill for the rest of the season. But yeah, as of yesterday, Tyler McGill was doing everything right. I mean, he was having an electric fastball, 96 to 97 miles per hour. He was throwing it up. I mean, Vlad Guerrero Jr., he couldn't touch his fastball up. The splitter was absolutely amazing. That newfound splitter that he had. And we talked about this yesterday on the post game. Like I said, if you are here and you missed the post game last night, it's on my channel. Make sure you go check that out and hit the thumbs up. But yeah, I loved everything that I saw out of Tyler McGill. I knew there was going to be people that were going to complain about Carlos Mendoza pulling Miguel early after the pitches. And in the post game, I said, even if the Mets had lost that game because Danny Young and Jose Butto came into that seventh inning and decided that they wanted to mess around and give up the lead, which was 1-0 at that time, even if the Mets didn't win that game, honestly, I can't fault Carlos Mendoza for that decision process. With as many times as I go on the pregame and you go on the pregame talking about we don't trust McGill, we don't know what we're going to get out of McGill. It'd be a miracle if we can get 5 scoreless out of McGill or even close to there. Why would we want to extend him after Mendoza just got 6 scoreless, right? It doesn't make much sense. I'm sure there's some advanced statistics out there that he has available by the stats team that in the stats department to show that as well. I don't have those right in front of me, but I could guess, right? In terms of McGill and the success later on in the game, it doesn't really matter at this point. It ended up working out in the Mets' favor just by the final score being what it was. Interesting to see the Blue Jays and how they handled that game in terms of their pitching, right? They threw Mr. Burr out there as an opener for, I believe, the first 2 innings. The next guy came in. I completely forget who the next guy was, but he was kind of a hard thrower. He had some life on that fastball, and then they brought in a little bit of a slower look at the New York Mets, and that's why I guess they decided to stack the righties in that lineup yesterday, and they decided to give Jesse Winker the day off because they knew that Ryan Yarbrough, former Ray and former Dodger, was going to be getting bulk innings, and he did. And honestly, was still not encouraged with the way that the Mets were putting swings on Ryan Yarbrough. I get that the angle on his release point is tough. He only throws 86, but it's kind of a funky delivery. I get all that, but we need to see better and more sound at-bats from this Mets lineup. That is first and foremost. So I know a lot of people are concerned. Yesterday didn't really make me feel good about the offense, even though we won. But again, who are we to sit here and complain about a 3-2 victory and the most important stretch of the whole entire season, the most important stretch ever since 2022 New York Mets baseball. So we're not going to complain. We just want to see better at bats.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, when the Mets were going, we were going on that crazy hot streak, not just the 9 in a row, but ever since the end of May, they've been finding ways to win, and the other part of the team stepped up. When you're not hitting, the pitching stepped up. When the pitching wasn't doing well, the hitting stepped up. So listen, somebody stepped up, and it was McGill and Diaz that stepped up. I know Diaz, another 10 feet that pulls over the wall, and we're talking about a walk-off loss, but he got the job done. And, with Tyler McGill, didn't it seem like he was pitching with, I guess, I wouldn't say authority, but more like I don't know. It felt like there was like anger towards his pitching yesterday. Like, here you go, try to hit it, and good luck. Like, it seemed like he was pitching with anger yesterday. He finally remember.
Rob, I saw that. After a couple of strikeouts, especially a strikeout to end the inning. I saw that facial expression out of Tyler McGill. Dude, yeah, you're right, 100%.
I remember I said, I believe I said it on the pregame yesterday, that Tyler McGill has become a thrower and not a pitcher. Yesterday, he looked like a pitcher. Every pitch had meaning to it. Like, I'm throwing this pitch because this is my out pitch. I'm throwing this pitch because I know you can't hit it. That's the type of McGill that we saw when he pitched the first time on opening day. And look, he wasn't throwing 99, 98, but he was getting it up there for sure. But there was authority to it. There was it was just anger in his pitches. And maybe he has to pitch like that. Maybe he has to pitch with that type of emotion and not that la la type of lollygagging type of emotion on the mound where he needs to, I guess he has to have that angered confidence to pitch the way he did yesterday. And listen, we need him. If Blackburn's not going to be back probably for the rest of the season, McGill's got to step up here because he will be pitching at least, if I'm not mistaken, 2, possibly 3 more times over these last 18 games, 3 more times. So we're going to need him. And he's probably going to face the Phillies. And I try to do the math. And if things work out and there's no rainouts and with the off days, McGill's going to pitch in that Brave series, most likely. Unless the Mets with an off day switch it back where it's going to be Manaea, Severino, and Peterson. I think they're going to try to do that. But if it doesn't, he's lined up to pitch that Brave series, the second to last series of the year. So I know I'm looking way ahead, but Tyler McGill, for everybody who is probably going to be like, oh no, we can't see him. Well, he pitched really well yesterday. And I'm not saying have all the confidence in the world for him in his next start because we've seen this before. He'll pitch well and then his next start not pitch well at all. And then we're like, oh, same old McGill. But give him the benefit of the doubt. The way he pitched yesterday, maybe he found something. And maybe he takes that into his future starts. Now, maybe that's a little bit more of me trying to spill that positivity a little bit when it comes to McGill, but nobody was expecting that performance yesterday. Everybody was expecting probably out in the 4th or 5th inning and hanging on for dear life and trying to, probably leaving the game with a deficit. And he didn't do that. And they got the job done. The Mets put together, pretty decent at bats later in the ball game to win the ball game, and it kind of put the pitcher on a. I don't know what the hell was wrong with the catcher, but the pitcher as well. He couldn't throw strikes either. And good job by the Mets not trying to reach for those pitches and trying to do too much, and they were just letting the pitcher screw it up and the catcher screw it up as well. And look, that might not look like good at bats, but they actually are considering the way the Mets have been swinging at everything over the last couple of games. And it's good to see that they were making sure that the pitcher tried to throw strikes, and he didn't really do that. I mean, I was laughing during those last couple of innings because it was like, what the hell is going on? When like pass ball hit by pitch, wild pitch. It's like what that was some little league nonsense. But you know what? I'll take that win, and we go forward today trying to win a series in game 2.
Yeah, I mean, while you were laughing, I was praying because I was just hoping that the Mets were able to capitalize on bases loaded, nobody out, and they did via the pass ball, obviously. That Mark Vientos call, that the umpire rung him up on that high curveball was absolutely atrocious. That should not have been a strike at all. I believe that's a 3-2 count, if I'm not mistaken. He was supposed to be walking there. That's not a pitch you swing at a 3-2. So again, disciplined at bats. Any disciplined at bats that we see from the New York Mets, whether they result in a hit or whether they result in a walk, right? That the Mets had put on yesterday. Jesse Winker getting it started in that inning as well. Obviously, a well-placed ball by Francisco Alvarez. They get some help with the pass balls. Francisco Lindor drawing a walk as well. So disciplined at bats. Now we just need to see that transfer over to the other guys as well. And then we'll be set. So, and by other guys, I mean Pete Alonso, because Pete Alonso's expanding his zone almost every single at bat. But that's neither here nor there. We do have a game today. Now, I apologize. I am on a time crunch today. I will be here for the post game. I will miss part of the game. So for those of you all that are paying attention to the game through and through, I'll miss the first chunk of it. So please come into the post game with your knowledge ready to drop in the comments section, because I'm going to need some help, and John's going to be helping me out on the post game as well in terms of taking some notes and providing his insight. But yeah, we got 20 more minutes on this post game, or this pregame, excuse me. And I wanted, or at least I do, I'm not sure if you're going to continue it on, but I want to talk about today, because today is, again, next game up right in front of you. Take the series, Rob. The Mets have another opportunity to take another series, like you have always mentioned. So this is awesome, and it's a great opportunity because they're not facing an opener, right? Like they did against the Reds and like they did against last night against Mr. Burr. They are facing former teammate Chris Bassett, which a lot of these guys in this lineup have or should have familiarity with. And that is something that I'm not sure if they've been circling on their calendars, but I was kind of circling on mine because, again, after the 2022 season, it just left a really sour taste in my mouth, especially with how he performed down the stretch of the season. And I've already made my opinions on Chris Bassett known. Like I said, nothing against the guy, but just like, he could have strapped up. He could have took a little bit more accountability, and he didn't. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I really hope the Mets bats are up to the task. We can talk about this pitching matchup, or we could talk about the lineup first. Which one would you like to do?
Let's get the pitching matchup out of the way because I like our pitching matchup. Look, Chris Bassett, right? We know what he throws about 30 pitches, different pitches. He throws a lot of junk up there. He doesn't throw a lot of balls for strikes. He likes to work all around the plate, low, side to side, up. He does not like to throw the ball over the plate. He wants you to fish. And let's be honest, the last couple of games, the Mets have been fishing a lot and have been swinging at balls and not strikes. And it's been a huge problem. And we got enough of those guys in this lineup right now that have been doing that. And Chris Bassett is not going to throw you a strike when he knows you're going to go after it. So the Mets have to be patient. Work the count on Chris Bassett. He's a guy that gets frustrated on the mound. We've seen it as Met fans when he was a Met. He gets frustrated on the mound when things are not going his way. Work around him. Let him bring that ball in the middle of the plate. And that's how you work the count. That's how you get to him. David Peterson, on the other hand, I forgot who put it in the chat, but I think they have 14-3 in a David Peterson start. That's outstanding. That just shows you that even if Peterson doesn't have a star-studded game and still pitches fairly decent, the Mets still find a way to win in ball games. And he does get a lot of run support when he's on the mound. So that's a good sign. Hopefully we get run support for David Peterson. But David Peterson has been outstanding. I mean, seriously, if I can give somebody the comeback player of the year as a Met, it's probably him. Like, this guy was basically, nobody thought he would be in this rotation. He was an afterthought. Some Met fans, probably including myself, I might have said this earlier in the offseason, that I don't think David Peterson should be on this team. He probably is going to be in the minors. So, he shut all of us up, but he has to continue it. And I think that's the important thing, right? You can't have a bad stretch in September and then we're all going to talk about your accolades, in the early part of the season. He's got to continue it. I don't expect him not to continue it, but I think we're in a good spot here today. The Mets score runs when Peterson's on the mound. Peterson has pitched outstanding. No reason why he shouldn't today. And the Mets are 14-3 when David Peterson's on the mound. They ain't that much to say, except I think we have the pitching matchup in our favor, and the Mets should win today. Just like I said yesterday, they should win today. No excuses.
Yeah, it's going to be a long and grueling game. If I had to imagine, I'd be shocked if this one ends anytime soon, especially with Chris Bassett on the mound. Like I said, any game that Chris Bassett pitches in, there's so many shakeoffs, there's so many step offs, throw overs, etc. Now that all that's been limited in the last couple of years by the new rules, but even still, he likes to take his time up there. Obviously, and he's a very rhythm pitcher, right? And if you throw him out of his rhythm, and if you find a way to throw him out of his rhythm, then he gets flustered. So I really hope the Mets can try to do that. But yeah, I was just looking at Chris Bassett's season. Obviously, a very subpar season. He throws like 7 or 8 different types of pitches and what may feel like 30 plus pitches, like you said, but his best pitches are the ones that break again away from the right-handed batters, and his sweeper and his cutter. So if you're a righty, which most of this lineup is, right, except for Jesse Winker and DJ Stewart, obviously, which is why I'm assuming he's in that lineup. And I guess Eddie Alvarez does bat lefty too, huh? I think he might bat lefty. I think he might bat lefty. We'll see today as well, as he's batting ninth in his first start for the New York Mets since coming over. But yeah, that's what I'm expecting from Chris Bassett. See a lot of those sweepers. If you're Pete Alonso, you are going to be sure that he is throwing you a sweeper. There's no if, ands, or buts, especially if you have 2 strikes on him. He is going to be throwing that sweeper. But as for David Peterson as well, like his best 3 pitches this season have been, and they play right up the alley of what the Mets pitchers have been doing in terms of changing the eye level. The 4-seam fastball has been fantastic for David Peterson, but also the 2 put away pitches in his changeup and his curveball also have been really good statistically. Now, he doesn't throw the curveball at a very high rate. I believe it's somewhere at like 8%. But if he can mix between that curveball, changeup, and then change the hitter's, I guess, swing speed and bat speed with that four-seam fastball that he likes to throw for like what, 95, 96 from the left-handed side, somewhere around there, he is going to keep on being successful. Now, the other pitches that he throws, the sinker, etc., they don't have as good of a success rate, but David Peterson, like Tyler McGill last night, has been doing a great job of mixing his pitches. And by mixing, I mean he doesn't fall in love with any one pitch. And that is, I think, something that is a common theme amongst all these pitchers in this Mets rotation. Luis Severino, Sean Manaea, everybody, even Jose Quintana, although Jose Quintana likes to rely on his changeup a little bit there. But yeah, this is something that I'm looking forward to in this pitching matchup. But if you have to tell me on this pregame, what I am like looking forward to, it's that the Mets have an advantage here in the pitching matchup category. And that's a blessing when you go into these games, especially with a struggling lineup. That's always a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about that. I saw one of my members that's been on there for 16 months that just popped up. So I just wanted to say thank you to Christina.
Love that. I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. And she just popped up saying, "Let's go Mets. Let's get the win tonight." Absolutely, Christina. And yeah, you're 100% right about that. And look, I think we have the edge in the pitching matchup just the way Peterson has been pitching and Bassett hasn't pitched well this year. But you're right. I mean, guys like Pete Alonso, you know what you're getting. And yes, his last at bat, all he was throwing was sliders. Oh my, like Pete, what are you doing? Like I know I'm jumping off a little bit, but it annoyed me because I believe we had somebody on at that moment, and it was just I think it was like 3 pitches, like the same pitch. Like I mean, I know I'm done with Pete Alonso, but it's just frustrating seeing it and that he's just in the middle of the lineup and he's just doing that same damn thing. But let's talk about the lineup because when I saw the lineup, I'm like, huh. Finally, Nimmo's out of the top 3. I was excited about that. So I expected Nimmo to be no less than 5. So 4, 5, they're still back to back, which is interesting. 4, 5, 6 has been an issue. But DJ Stewart and Eddie Alvarez, 7 and 9. I know DJ Stewart's going to get a start every now and then. Eddie Alvarez is very interesting to me. But Chris, you were spot on with Jose Iglesias and protecting him and giving him rest. Because of his age, because he hasn't played Major League Baseball in 2 years, by the way. We forget he didn't play last year. So he's an everyday player now. And, you and Hector kind of got went back and forth in the group chat and on the roundtable the other day about Iglesias getting some time off and not playing every day because he is up there in age. He is a guy who hasn't played every single day in 2 years. Like that was something that I agree with you as well, even though I'm a little surprised they would use Alvarez in that spot, even though who else are they going to use? So
they have nobody else to use, and that's why we always talk about Luis Angel Acuna. But yeah. I digress my point. I mean, I've exhausted that already. I did call this. You're right. They were going to need a spot start for Jose Iglesias. This guy's 34, not 24 years old. I understand this is the most important stretch of the season. I think even Ricardo in the chat, shout out to Ricardo, also a channel member of mine as well. He pointed out that Jose Iglesias, it looks like he's walking with a limp at some time. Now, again, I'm not going to speculate any sort of injuries, but again, these guys probably aren't 100% healthy. So when you have a guy that's 34 years old, it makes sense to get him off of his feet for a couple days here and there. I understand we only have 17, 18 more games left in the regular season, but it's not rocket science to expect this guy to get a day off or 2 in between. And so if you're going to prioritize a guy like Eddie Alvarez, okay, so be it. But I'm just going to take the stance that I would have rather saw a guy like Luis Angel Acuna. If you're going to go with the backup option, you're going to go with a guy that is going to be in this organization, presumably, although he might not be the star-studded prospect that we have always thought he was going to be. You're telling me that you'd rather see Eddie Alvarez over Luisangel Acuna? I can't buy into that, but that's the only thing that I'm going to say about the topic because, again, Hector and I did go back and forth. No disrespect to Hector at all.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
has opinions. He doesn't care about the situation nearly as much as I do. And I respect that because, again, he's right. This doesn't make or break the team at all. I 100% agree with
We
it.
hope
I'm
not,
just
though. We
saying,
hope
like,
not, though. Because there could be a big spot in this game where Eddie Alvarez is at bat and he does absolutely nothing. Not saying that Acuna would, but
sure.
I think we can assume that there's a pretty good chance that Acuna would get that hit over Alvarez or Eddie Alvarez, who is batting what, under 200. So like I understand that. Like it is a point because we know, like, look at the bottom of the order. These are guys that are not hitting. Like, this is basically, it looks like the old Mets lineup of the past, where 7 through 9 is absolutely a waste of time. And that you can't have that when you have Lindor, who has been struggling over the last 3 or 4 games. You know, besides Vientos, who is still looking pretty good. Winker has been hot. Other than that, who's been really good in this lineup right now? So, you know, having no Marte, no Bader or Taylor, and you put in these guys or Iglesias, that's a lot of offensive production you are losing for Stewart and Eddie Alvarez. So again, this is why we were complaining about that. Look, the DJ Stewart situation right now has nothing to do with the McNeil Rossa spot. That's Alvarez now. But again, the DJ Stewart spot still seems very odd. Like, where is Tyrone Taylor? I know he's a right-handed batter against Chris Bassett, but Tyrone Taylor has been damn good. Stewart is not a very good outfielder. He's definitely not a good hitter. Why play him just because he's a lefty? It's very that this is what annoys me because Tyrone Taylor should be playing more. He should be. I don't want to see him pinch running. I know, you know, he got that run. He scored that run from third when he was a pinch runner. But I want to see his bat in the lineup. I know he's good defensively, so it's very. This is a Sunday lineup. You know, it's very odd. It's very odd for a game 2. I understand you want to give Iglesias a rest. You have to. So, and Alvarez is the only choice because that's all the middle infield backup you have. But DJ Stewart makes no sense because there's other options there. So I just don't get it. But it is what it is. Again, we're questioning the lineup, but Mendoza has been pretty damn good with this stuff. And maybe we'll be surprised. I'm not saying DJ Stewart is going to go 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs or Alvarez, but look, if Alvarez can get on base, he will cause havoc. He is a very speedy runner. He gets on the base path, he will try to steal. He will 100% try to steal. So I think they're hoping as the 9 hitter to either get a walk or somehow get on base for the top of the order and maybe cause some havoc, you know, mess with Chris Bassett a little bit, and maybe Bassett will lean one over the plate for one of the boys up top. That's what I'm hoping. And that's what I think Mendoza's thinking. But it is a very odd lineup for game 2 on a Tuesday in this series with 18 games to go. Very odd.
Yeah, you guys, everybody that's known me on this channel that I've been, you know, ever since I started talking Mets on this channel, and you as well, Rob, can attest to this, is that I don't like playing the lefty-righty game. I don't like it at all. And I know that teams around the league are still going to do it. The Mets have done it for ages. And so for me to just expect them not to do it at this point would be absolutely ridiculous of me. But I wish that they would stop prioritizing that. Now, again, I just looked at the career numbers of this lineup versus Chris Bassett. Not many guys in this lineup have seen a whole lot of Chris Bassett. I believe Francisco Lindor is 3 for 12. That equates to a 250 average. JD Martinez is like 1 for 12. So that's like under 100. That's like 0.083. That's absolutely abysmal. So we'll see if that changes. And then you have Francisco Alvarez and DJ Stewart that are both 1 for 3 off of Chris Bassett. So again, not enough sample size for me to be like, oh, this is why DJ Stewart is in the lineup, or this is why Eddie Alvarez is in the lineup, right? I mean, it has to be that they want as many lefties as possible in this lineup to go and face Chris Bassett. And that's exactly why they stacked as many righties as possible in this lineup to go and face Ryan Yarbrough. I'm
Yeah.
going to always disagree with that because I don't care about the pitching matchups. I don't care about lefty versus righty. I think it's overrated. But again, what do I know? I mean, the Mets are still going to do it. And we just got to hope they go out there and toss up some runs. That's really it. I mean, for all we know, DJ Stewart can go out there, go 3 for 3 with the home run. Eddie Alvarez can go 1 for 3 with 2 stolen bases and 2 runs scored. And then everybody's going to be sitting here laughing at us for us questioning about, what Carlos Mendoza is doing. And not even Carlos Mendoza, because it comes for, like we mentioned on the roundtable, the Carlos Mendoza doesn't choose, right? Presumably who's coming up or who's
Exactly.
coming down.
His
It's
hands are
about
tied.
Exactly. That's not Carlos Mendoza's decision. So again, I don't want to make it seem like I'm questioning David Stearns here again, but I'm just saying, like, there's going to be moves where we would rather see the other guy, and then the other guy gets called up, right? And
Correct.
it works out a completely different way. And that's okay. That doesn't take away from the fact about how we feel about David Stearns overall, right? He's
Yeah.
done a tremendous job. I just dropped the video, right, talking about how much of a baseball genius David Stearns was. It's on my homepage. You can go check it out. So I'm not distrusting this guy. All I'm just saying is that one minor particular move I would have done differently, and that's it. But
Right.
onward we go. Game 145 tonight, and
Yep.
let's get a win. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, quick final thoughts here. Listen, do your job. No excuses. David Peterson pitched well. Mets offense, wake the fuck up. And it's very simple. Get number 80 on the season. Hopefully the Braves lose again. And the Mets go up 2 games and possibly move up in the wild card stand-ins and get closer to a division if the Phillies lose as well. That's the goal right now. There's no more excuses. The offense got to get it together. The pitching has been too good to lose games because of the offense, Chris. What are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts are I will see you all in the post game. Barring anything unforeseen, the post game will be going on. So please, if you don't have channel notifications turned on for me, turn them on. You'll get notified when I go live. Go and have a blast in the chat section of Pure Adrenaline Sports and Talking Mets with Rob while they go live during the game. I got a couple of errands to run. Honestly, to be honest, do you guys know what I'm going to be going out to do in the meantime here? I'm going to be going to watch the Atlanta Braves and the Washington Nationals for the first 5 innings because I have free tickets and I want to see the Washington Nationals beat the Atlanta Braves. So for the first 5 innings, I'm going to be going over there and utilizing those free tickets and going and watching that game. And I'm going to go dash right back home and I'm going to go and get the post game rolling because I want to see a Mets win. I want to talk some Mets baseball. So that's what I'll be doing. See you all for the post game. I appreciate it again. Like, the lineup's the lineup. The personnel's the personnel. The people in charge of this team that we trust every day, they deem this to be the personnel that we're using today at this point in this juncture of the season. So that is what we have to trust in, what we have to believe in, and they have to go out there and deliver us a victory.
Mm-hmm.
Shut them down, David Peterson. Do what you do best. Distribute your pitches, like I just mentioned, and offense needs to show up. And we'll talk about it on the post game. Win number 80, Sanders, absolutely. Win number 80. I appreciate you all. See you on the post game. Thank you so much. Hit that thumbs up, please, and subscribe if you haven't. We'll see you all later.
Yes, sir. I'll see you in about an hour, guys. Let's go Mets. Mets watch party, 7 o'clock. See you next time, guys. Let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets. Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets are really socking the ball.